I am a school shooting survivor. There, I finally said it. It's taken me almost 20 years to say those words to a greater audience. A lot of cases it's for fear, as I've been held back. Generally speaking, a lot of times when I share with people where I went to school or that I am a school shooting survivor, there's a lot of questions that follow. And with those questions, it brings up a lot of emotion for me, a lot of memories. Although I know that that experience was part of God's plan for me, and I know that God was with me that day, it stirs up a lot of emotion for me. But I know without a doubt from the moment that it happened that the Lord was with me and He had a plan for me and for my life. So I was born and raised in Colorado. In April of 1999, I was a senior at Columbine High School. Looking forward to my graduation. That was exactly 21 days away, and just looking forward to all the fun things that were ahead of me in my last days in high school. Got ready for school that day just like any other day. As I walked up the steps to the school, just remembered noticing what a beautiful day that it was, and the parking lot was somewhat emptier than usual because it was senior ditch day, if you will. We talked like, hey, it's senior ditch day, maybe we should go study for our physics exam that's later that week. Maybe we should just skip our elective, it's not a big deal. And I remember thinking, well, it's max day in weight, so it's an important day, I actually have to be there. So we went ahead and went to our classes as usual. But about 20 minutes after the bell rang, the fire alarm was pulled, and we found that interesting. So we kind of looked at each other, the other senior and I, because our teacher wasn't around, and we just thought, well, what should we do? And ultimately, we opened the back door and we saw people running, and we thought, oh man, it's not a drill, it's real. And so we decided to lead the rest of the class outside, and each step that we took, it got more and more serious. The next couple of hours were quite a blur, but one thing that I know for a fact from the moment that I took that first step outside of the classroom was that the Lord was with me, and I had no fear. I heard things and I saw things, but it didn't impact me. And I don't know if, I was just protected, if it was just, how I cope with things, but I immediately went into, help mode, and I was helping coordinate students and trying to help people get to where they needed to go. We started to learn the seriousness of the situation. It was just beyond anything I could possibly imagine. I just don't think that my 18-year-old self was able to really comprehend what had happened and what I had seen and heard, and that there was going to be people that I would never see again. I think I learned at the tender age of 18 that life is just so precious, and I think in a way, it was a gift for me to learn so young, to live in the moment, to love with, no limits, to just be myself and give it all, and not be afraid of holding back, just because you just never know. I now have 3 children. I'm married with 3 children. This actually will be the first year that all 3 of them are in school. Imagining my children in school is very difficult for me, but not just because of my experience at school, but just because of the world that we live in general. Since April 20th, 1999, there have been over 25 other school shootings. It just seems to be happening more and more often, and the fear that is projected through, it's everywhere that we look, and it's easy for a person to be anxious or fearful of sending their kids to school, or just, any loved one. I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say that fear doesn't creep in from time to time, but I'm always reminded that the Lord did not give me a spirit of fear, but of love and power and of a sound mind. In those first probably 60 to 90 minutes, just the way that I reacted was like an out-of-body experience. It only could have been the Holy Spirit working through me and just literally making every step for me. And this moment happened where the Lord spoke to me and said, I've given you all these gifts, and what are you doing with them? At that moment, I became more fearful that I wasn't using my gifts and that I wasn't doing what the Lord put me on this earth to do. And I became more fearful that I wouldn't spend eternity with the Lord than all the other things that I had been fearing. Everything shifted for me. Like, it was immediate for me from the day of the shooting to this day where I had this encounter. It was probably almost 17 and a half years after the actual event. The fear was stealing the joy in my life. And immediately when I just said, Lord, I surrender all. I surrender my life, I surrender my children, I surrender my marriage, whatever happens, I know I just want to be with you, Lord, and I want to do your will, and I want to work for you. Use me as a vehicle. I just prayed this out, and I started to experience life so differently. My dad taught me, he'd say, you just tell, the devil, you just get out of here. You don't live here anymore. Get in the back seat, get behind me, and he would say stuff like that. And on days that I was having a bad day, I'd go get in my car and I'd just scream, I call fear and Satan the same thing. And so I would just tell him, get behind me. You have no place here. And, generally that works. Sometimes I have to scream louder than other times, but we all have a story. We all have had different experiences, whether it's a traumatic experience like I have experienced, maybe it's the loss of a child, whatever it is, we all have a story, and we can either allow our circumstances to paralyze us, or we can allow the Lord to use us and share his light and find purpose in the situation. That's one thing that I believe, because we all have a story.